Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you and welcome to this special meeting. This is a special meeting in which we can hear submissions for our budget. So I would like to acknowledge Indy and welcome her to this particular meeting. If I could just begin with a statement of acknowledgement. We acknowledge the traditional owners of this land in which we are meeting and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and to those from other communities who are here with us today, for they hold the memories, the tradition and the culture of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 3 is, is apologies and requests for leave of absence. We do have an apology today. Councillor Mildren is unwell. Item 4 is declarations under acts, regulations, codes and local laws. I don't think there is any other than the normal. Item 5 is declaration by councillors of any conflict of interest. I don't believe there is any at this point. So that does lead us straight to the purpose of this meeting. And again, I would like to thank Indy and also all of the Albury-Wodonga mountain biking club, because I do know that there has been significant interest. Councillors have been the recipient of tens of emails, so I reckon I'd probably have nearly up to 50. But what it really signifies to me is our continued public interest in our community, and I think that's a fantastic thing. Whoever steps forward and actually takes the time to put in the energy, effort and passion into coming and presenting to us during a budget cycle should be congratulated. So Indy, we're going to hand over to you. And we're in your hands. You have about 15 odd minutes to present. That'll come on in just 1 minute. Hang on when I turn off. So we're going to hand to you now, and then at the end of it, if councillors have got any clarifying questions, they will ask those. We aren't here for debates. We're not here to debate your item that you're putting forward. It'll just be for some clarifying questions. So thank you again, and over to you.
Thank you for having me here today. Is it loud enough, or shall I move it? Yeah, awesome. So my name is Julia Boyer, and I'm representing Mrs. Erin Wimhurst as well as the wider recreational mountain bike community today. I also volunteered lobbying for the Albury-Wodonga Mountain Bike Club, and I also have an invested interest in the parks through my own mountain bike skills coaching company, the Fastline Bike Academy. Well, actually most of my athletes are training there. So the local mountain bike community is requesting further improvements in the park due to growing demand, and we had sort of, I think, most of the things what been asked for. That was progressive jumps and drop-offs along the rock and roller trail for intermediate and advanced riders, funding first aid equipment displayed at the junction points of the mountain bike trails, proper signage, picnic tables or some form of proper rest area and toilets. And I put together, two aspects. One is the local, Wodonga community, and another one is the tourism aspect. So the local Wodonga community considerations. Mountain biking is one of the biggest growing sport in town. The local club are, Albury-Wodonga mountain bikers, has a fluctuating numbers, but generally, around the 200 active racing members what we have. Also, we have about 1,000 recreational mountain bikers. This information gathered from the local bicycle shops based on, sales. I mean, all of them has computers, so they can put it in 3690, like how many bikes they sold recently or in the last year. Also, TFB, so the Fastline Bike Academy, our local mountain bike skills coaching company, runs weekday courses, and that has an average about 70 kids a week during daylight savings. So it's quite a significant numbers, and that's continuously growing. I actually gathered information, from two places. One of them was the Cycling Victoria State Facilities, 2016-2026. The Hume region has the second highest number of mountain bikers in regional Victoria. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, data shows that cycling is the 5th most popular sport enjoyed by Australians, neck to neck with swimming for 4th, and with almost as many Australians cycling as golf and tennis combined. Despite this, cycling infrastructure is unrepresented in the local areas. And I think it's unfortunate, we can say, here in Wodonga as well, particularly when compared with swimming, golf, or tennis. Study shows that outdoor exercises like mountain biking has good effect on mental well-being, easing anxiety and depression. Nature has calming effects on nerves, and our outdoor spaces are widely and easily available anytime for anyone in our town. I think it's another, sort of, for me, was a really good story, actually, how to keep, youngsters in town. One of my now coach, Luke Smith, he started to really seriously riding, when he was 16, and then obviously when he finished 18 with high school, he was like, well, I want to go down to Melbourne, to uni, and he went overseas for 3 months with his church to do some, volunteering work in Europe, and after 3 weeks being in big European cities, I think he was in Paris, which is obviously beautiful, but like after 3 weeks, they went to somewhere in Germany, very small town in Germany, and the first thing what he did, he went out to the forest and he was hugging a tree because he was so much missing, nature. And he came back after 3 months in Europe and he said, I don't want to go to Melbourne anymore. I just worked it out, this is not for me. So he's actually studying now here at the local university, and I think, and he's one example, but I think there is, many of like him who's actually, stayed, regional because they worked it out. Then, nature is really, really important for them. So I think that's another, way, to see then how we can, keep youngsters in town. Then. Like, yeah, we have like, fabulous, natures around us. Also, mountain biking provides freedom for juniors, and obviously they can independently travel around Wodonga. I mean, our bus service is okay, but I think it's a huge, point, for kids to going around. Mountain biking is helping developing self-confidence, high self-esteem, and sense of overall well-being and wellness. And I think we can just look at it, what's happened, during COVID-19. There was like lots of kids who just went riding with their brothers or, with their friends. And when I was seeing all of the news, then, kids has like, problems because they are away from, from friends and, inside. I was like, well, my kids, I'm saying my kids, my juniors who I work with, they just loved it. They could just go for a ride after work, after school, and they loved it. So yeah, they just approached the whole thing. Then it's like, oh well, it's not much in our in our life as a change. So I think that's a very good sign as well. So that's that's about for the the Victorian Cycling Victoria State Facility Strategy 2016-2026. By the way, if it's any of you interested of the data, I'm happy to email it to you. That's about 134 pages, so that's why I didn't print out the whole lot. What to look at it, our local mountain bike park, Wodonga. Since the December 2016 installation of the trail counter on Rock and Roller, as of last Wednesday when I went up, the trail has been used 17,256 times. So that's average 410 riders per month, and just that's on one trail. I mean, the trail counter is very much on the top of it, and I know lots of people not going up to there, as high. So I think that's and that's just one trail. So obviously there is plenty of more, which has a much higher usage. So I think that's very promising. Also, we have more and more new visitors, and we have one hand-drawn map by Dan, 2 14-year-old girls made it, and framed by a 16-year-old boy, and which is on display. I mean, it's an outstanding donation of time and effort, and I think that again shows then our youngsters really wanna really want to get involved. And, these 3 kids did this without discussion with the mountain bike club. They just went ahead because they thought they need a sign. And that's up about 3 years. But, it's nice, but I think we need a proper signage. And I'm out at the park generally about 5 times a week, and like quite often I see people who's got lost, or they going on a wrong direction and things like that. So I understand, and it can't have a proper signage up until it's actually the Aboriginal heritage study haven't been done, and the parkland haven't cleared everything in their part of the the mountain bike trail, but at least a sign perhaps up to, well, this is how you can go up to Rock and Roller, or welcome to Wodonga Mountain Bike Park or something like that, just to having like which can be later on used as well. In the original hilltop strategy, or another way they called Nature on Your Doorstep, planning for the Wodonga Hills proposal, the council planned picnic tables and toilets. We, as some talk about, the wider mountain bike community, prefer both rather sooner than later. There is a growing number of parents with young kids are visiting the event center, and yeah, honestly, nowhere to be sit. So that's actually like an old, like base of a house, and that's what you can, sit in a concrete ruin. And it's also more and more children birthday parties out there. And I think in both situations, people would stay longer if there was a toilet facility there. Also, female participation is very low in mountain biking. I mean, I work on it, very hard, being a female and a female coach. But I attended numerous workshops, how to keep and grow female athletes in a sport. And I think one of the things which came out for me was very relevant than a lack of mountain bike facilities. So would have more ladies if they could actually, to not just to be there for an hour, but, can stay longer because there's somewhere, to use a proper toilet. Also, 2 mountain bike disciplines, downhill and gravity enduro, are very popular in Wodonga. I mean, just in the last racing season, the 2019-20, 2 local boys won the downhill national championship in under 13 and 15. We have 3 Victorian gravity enduro national series winner in under 15, under 17, and elite women. And beyond that, we had numerous podium places in overall and at individual state and national races. I mean, actually, it's so long. That would be just like such a long, to names and things. Then I didn't, put the individual, riders there. But as an interesting thing is that also 4 boys have represented Australia in the under-19 downhill national team in the last 4 years. So I think we can surely say then, the most, from racing point of view, one of the most successful sport in town. That's, that's mountain biking. And the thing is, I mean, we talk about here under 15, under 13, under 15, under 17 riders. For them to further improve, we need to have actually, to further, to increase, the obstacles and, the facilities what we have in a mountain bike park. And that's why we had the request for more intermediate and advanced features to practice in a park for the boys, so they they don't need to to go away and try to train in beauty or bright. And I think despite this is one of the most successful sport in town, well, racing wise, it still has a very low maintenance cost. The reality is then once we have the initial setup, which is basically building the track, there is no electricity, water, heating cost, clubhouse upkeep or refurbishment. Also, we have a huge volunteer number who are keen to help during working bees, and that's one of the things what I also would like to make an attention. I mean, was very noticeable for me, who's actually going around in Albury and also in Wodonga. Then during COVID-19, that's lots of kids started to building illegal tracks, and the thing is, I mean, it's need to be, I think, acknowledged, because yeah, we need to do something against it. And I think previously when the club, did working bees, they actually asked the local trail builder, Lee Holland, from Trail Construction, who built Rock and Roll and Quartz Trail, to actually come and, to help the kids out. So he was actually educating them to how to do sustainable tracks. But the very important aspect, was then they actually was significantly, reduced then people needs to actually, so to speak, needs to, to building. They really want to get involved. So TFB does lots of trail maintenance, as like cutting grass, during summertime at the area which is maintained by the pool. And the kids, coming out to grass cutting, like 13, 15, 17 years old boys coming out, grass cutting. And it's not a pleasant, job, but, they do it because they feel, that's how they can contribute. So the same, I think, to actually to think about then, having more often actually allow the club to do trail maintenance, and that's have like some sort of funding where is actually Lee Holland can come and not just volunteer his time, but actually, to come and, to have the voice and educate it. I think that would be a very good way to, reduce the illegal trails. So that's about, the consideration locally. And then I think the tourism consideration is very important in Wodonga as well. So, I mean, mountain bike tourism is very popular and on a rise. And I think this is one of the few sports beyond golf, which is actually the whole families can do together. And they actually do mountain biking holidays. Like, I'm sure you never heard about someone goes around, in Australia with the family to visiting, swimming pools. That's the case with mountain biking. Like families goes around to ride, all different mountain bike parks all around in Australia. And I actually contacted Tourism Northeast, office, and I got the 122 pages Northeast Victoria cycling representation, which is prepared in 2017. And I actually extracted a couple of informations out of that, which is, I think, relevant, to Wodonga. So according to this is a 2017, data, 1.2 million or 6.2% adult Australians are mountain bike riding. North Victoria has over 100,000 visitors a year, and that's by far more than the second, by far the biggest one. The second place is Great Ocean Road, that's around 50,000, so that's half, compared with Northeast Victoria. And these visitors spend an estimated $50 million in our region. They're forecasting an average 255% increase in visitors by 2025. And I mean, given then we can't leave the country, until end of this year, that's probably gonna, increasing much quicker, like much earlier, because I mean, people can just do holidays, in Australia. Most important motivation factors for mountain bikers are nature, outdoor, and followed by fitness and challenge. 39% of mountain biker destinations choice influenced by the quality of trails. 30% of them choose broad variety of trails. 28% other things to do and see in an area, which is, I think, us in Wodonga is, it's a perfect, like consideration because it's lots of another thing to do here. And 26% the length of trail network in an area. 30% of the mountain bikers doing overnight or longer stay with friends, and 10% staying with family. And I think that's an interesting one. 37% of mountain bikers considered to visit Northeast Victoria for riding. That's Australia-wide. And this was the highest percentage in Victoria amongst other locations and that's including in, like us, so that's including whole Australia. So the Blue Range, Sydney area and also Canberra region, which they have much, more mountain bike trails, but like Canberra has, but it's also, we have lots of another, parks around us in Northeast Victoria. So, and then it was most appealing elements of future visit. For 40% of the riders were the trail extending from town to trail. So basically once they arrive, no use for cars. 38% is bike-friendly town with orientation and signage, and 35% of riders, the most appealing elements was the local routes and services. Mountain bikers doing an average 2.5 overnight trips a year with over $1,000 spending per trip. And yeah, this is when it's coming, my question to the councillors. I mean, do we want to be part of the mountain biking boom, or we just, watching people from Canberra or Sydney, they just drive past our town and, they're going to just go to Beechworth or Beauty or, Force Creek. I also talked to Wodonga Shire. You may be aware that there is a $2.5 million project is materializing at Mitamita. The Mita Valley Mountain Bike Park will feature a 60 km long trail network with 20 different trails from easy green to a very technical double black diamond. And it's set to be the Derby of Victoria. So Derby is it's a small town down in Tasmania, and they are basically the case of success, where it's like there was a completely dying out logging town, and now it's one of the biggest tourist attraction down in Tassie because they build a mountain bike park. So that's that's what Wodonga Shire basically wants to achieve here in Victoria as well at Mitamita. And I mean, what you should consider, then once the park is done, the only way there is through our town. So, it doesn't matter which direction you're coming from. So I suggest, we should start to look at it, how we can actually attract all of those mountain bikers, who's coming through town, going to Mitamita, just to at least, if it's nothing else, just to staying for one day, in town and creating actually, some extra income for our town. So all of our requests, above, what I was talking about, toilet facilities, signage, things like that, that's of course would help make the Hunchback Mountain Bike Park more visitor friendly. And I mean, these requests would benefit the local community, but also, like the wider community as well, if we have actually more visitors and, they're spending, some tourism money. Certainly, like, yeah, with this Northeast, what's exactly the name of it? So this, this Northeast Victoria cycling representation, I'm happy to, to actually email it to you. That's 122, pages of interesting info. So that's basically, that's basically about it. I would like to just, to discuss just another thing, and that's about the parks management plan. So us mountain bike, or well, us TFB, my company, and obviously my close associates, very closely following the last 4 years of, you can say, debacle around, the park. And it's very clear to me that it's too many land managers. So talking, with wider community, I mean, having, 72 kids, in every single term, that means lots of parents who I'm talking to. And I can say, the community want to, to move forward. And the problem is what I see, then Paul and Webb, who's, also, looking after one, major part of the park, for them, that's actually is not, have no commercial interest or any interest really, than the mountain bike park to flourish, compared with, Wodonga Council. So honestly can say the community, would like if Wodonga Council could overtake the management, from Paul and, from DWAP, and that would make, basically, for, I think, not just, the communities happier, but like, would make, easier as well to council to thinking, bigger, from a tourism, point of view. And just one another thing, I mean, if I can, just to talk about that one as well. I mean, mountain bikers are very passionate towards, the sport. I think I'm a good example. I mean, I'm riding mountain bikes 27 years and since 1993, and I'm hoping I'll be riding until I'm actually full of the saddle. I moved to Australia to be able to ride. My family only do, riding holidays. And I'm not alone with my lifestyle. So I know lots of people around Australia who's moving towns. So to be, closer to the mountain bike parks. I, know people who moved to Beechwood or even here to Wodonga to being, closer to mountain bike parks. Example, we bought the house because one of the feature what we really like, then you can see Hunchback, from the window, from our, kitchen window. So, things, and I'm not alone, or we're not alone, with this one as well. So what I'm trying to say, mountain biking not going to go away. So after, 4 years, just in the last 4 years in this term, was mountain biking such a, hot topic with so many passionate, supporters. And I honestly believe, the upcoming, council election might be partially decided, by on an emotional base, then mountain biking is supported in our town, or not. Thank you very much.
It's okay, got it. Super, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you clearly for all the work that you've done to get those statistics. There is some fascinating evidence in there. So councillors, I'm going to open the table for any clarifying questions if anybody has any. Yep, Councillor Watson.
Madam Mayor, I do. Julia, thank you very much. All the time I've been on council, this is probably one of the best submissions I've seen to a councillor for a budget briefing. My just clarification is, and I really admire your members, doing lots of voluntary work and wanting to add the grass mowing issue. What is that for a safety thing, or just near the car park? Or what's that involved?
So at summertime, we get like really, really long grass, and that's basically the less slope we have, the more grass it's growing. So when they start to get like really, really steep, terrain, like, high, like the midsection of Rock and Roller example, you don't get too much grass there. But example, down in around the event center and yeah, halfway through Rock and Roller, you get, quite a lot of, grass. Now, council looks after very well for the Rock and Roller area. So if I ring up, council, generally the boys coming out to cut the grass in a couple of days' time, but Parkland has no capacity. So for a very long time, we actually did it, as a volunteer. Some of our members has a ride on lawnmower and, they cut it. But then what's happening, Parkland and DWAP has a very sour relationship. That's how, nicely described. And basically, DWAP confiscated our keys to get into the event center. So from there on, we were just relying on, and they actually take it to Benalla, office. So if someone wants to cut the grass, they need to go to the Benalla office, get the key, and then, cut the grass, which is resulted last summer, was one stage, was 2 meter high, roughly 2 meter high, the grass at the event center, because, we reported it, but they just took so long for them to come. So it's a very snake prone area, and like people stopped riding down. But there was one reason why we would like to have some sort of first aid kit, which is actually snake bite kits, because the long grass. But
Anybody else?
A toilet-related question. So obviously, very well-established fact that not having adequate facilities is a barrier for female participation. So given the nature of mountain biking, that it's going to be up mountains where there may not be power and sewer facilities, obviously there's other ways around having toilet facilities that don't necessarily need power and sewerage. Could you tell us, like say, maybe at Bright or somewhere else, how does the toilet landscape work?
so Yakandanda, they have the bush toilet, which is that's no water, no power. They just have the building with the, I don't even know how they call it, but like normally what you find at national parks, car parks up at the Alpine region. So basically that's not a flush toilet. They're just to bush toilet with this, I don't know how they they treat it, then it's actually not combust. But basically, if you go out to Yakandanda, they just have, that type of, facility. So, no water, no lights, just, you use it at during daytime, the toilet anyway. Or if it's not, then you have your own lights, so you can, use it like that. Basically, it's not a huge amount of, money.
I'm going to touch on the toilet one too, because you basically half stole my question. But what would you foresee? You identify that mountain biking participation in the area, especially, has got more than golf and tennis combined. What would you see would be the percentage increase if there was a toilet facility provided up there for females to take away that barrier?
But no idea. I mean, I need to look at it if they have any, in these two strategies, if they have any, numbers on it from more, more clever people. But I know, so I can't put a number on it basically. But I know then, being two different, workshops in the last 2 years, which was about females' participation. And what I could, they had, lots of things, in it, how to increase. But what's really relevant for mountain biking, that was the lack of, the lack of, toilets, because we don't need changing rooms, but like they had also, uniform, and a couple of little things. But which was really relevant to mountain biking. But in the short term, I have no idea. I need to look at, if there's anything.
Councillor, I would suggest that we'd be able to get our hands on those figures, given that the state government sponsored a change room for women's fund, and a significant fund, and they're because of that percentage increase across all sports. So it would be the same, one would think. So we could probably get those stats, because it's a worthwhile question to have an answer to.
Yeah, it'd be a good one to get the answer to, because I know I've been up there on weekends, and there's been parents having parties up there, and the parents have to drive back into town just to go to the toilet. So, and that's not even about participation numbers. That's just people enjoying the environment up there. So.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just one other clarifying question, Julia. I don't know a lot about the sport, but because Hunchback is very closely location to our city centre or to our city, compared to Midder, where they might be developing a track, or up at Mount Beauty or Beechworth, is our resources closer to our community than those other centres?
Where Beechworth is, example, Beechworth, no. Like, they have properties next to the mountain bike park. So, that's basically like literally next to town. Canberra is the same. So in Canberra, they have two massive big suburbs, between it. And actually, I know we moved down from Canberra, actually, 9 years ago, so I have lots of friends there. and I know the lands which were like facing to the mountain bike park, they were like so high demand, and they need to do a ballot because everybody so majority was mountain bikers, you know, who actually wanted to have a house with a view to the mountain bike park. So that was like unprecedented in that two suburbs. Then the edge of the block of lands, they were actually so high demand. And for them as well in Canberra, like literally you have one road basically with a 2-lane road between the mountain bike park and the two very big suburbs. So no, I mean, mountain biking is a very quiet activity. Most of the people rides out there, or lots of them, and that was one of the things as well, which is even if they have visitors, they prefer to actually stay, put the car down, and from there on, from the accommodation as a tourist, as an accommodation to ride out to the park. So not to driving out. So that's it's not in any disturbance, with nature or neighboring properties at all, in my experience.
Okay, thanks for coming in and giving your presentation today. Just a question. Your group and members have just focused on the Hunchback Complex of Hills area. Would your group or members look at other areas of Wodonga to develop a mountain bike park that ultimately could cater for larger numbers and is on council-owned land?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if that would be, that would be really nice, to having, another areas as well. I mean, Hunchback is, started in the 90s. So, that's how just organically, developed as actually majority of the park. So Yakandanda, Beechwood, Beauty, is the same. Actually, as a matter of fact, all of our parks around us, except Bright and Narvan is meter coming. That would be fabulous if we would have another facilities as well. Probably if we would have example something at Barranduda, then that would reduce the usage, possibly reducing the usage of Hunchback. The thing is to start again. I'm looking at the mountain bike parks around. So they have one in Warburton, which is actually, again, that's a multi-million-dollar. So they are at the $8.2 million right now in a project, and they haven't even started the building. So that's a massive project in Warburton, just outskirts of Melbourne. So the thing is to start a new park. That's quite a lot of money. Because the difference between, with Hunchback, where they have already existing trails and they just need to do in heritage or, environmental, studies to establish or to acknowledge, the trails. When you do a brand new mountain bike park, meter, they need to do everything, from scratch. And that's quite a large, amount of, money. So as much as, personally, I would like to see something, at Barranduda, but I can only say then that may happen, in a couple of years' time. And we need to have a mountain bike park until then as well.
Thanks. Can I just ask a clarifier off the back of your question, please, Councillor Hall? I'm assuming that yourself and the people sitting in behind this submission have actually focused in on Hunchback because of our own strategy, which actually did the work and looked at all of our hilltops. And other than Barranduda, where there is a small component, and again, you're spot on because it's actually Delp land out there as well, that it was actually that area. So I'm assuming that you've focused in on there because it actually is in line with our strategy. Yep, thank you. Councillor Hall? Councillor Mitchell, did you have anything? No? Anybody else? I only have one, and you may or may not know the answer to this. But have you seen in your experience, and because you get to have a good look at a lot of areas, if there's some good examples of, I'm going to call them management committees because I don't know what else to call them, of some good structures like that where you've seen the mountain bike club and community kind of mesh together as a management committee over, I'm going to call it a mountain biking or a hilltop precinct. That would be a really great example for us to have a good look at.
Canberra Off-Road Cycles, Cork, has one of those. So they have in Canberra, they have 4 or 5 different parks, around the area. Some of them being actually managed by volunteer groups. So one of them is called Kowalski Brothers, and they only looking after the Cowan Forest, area. So how it works, it's a volunteer group, and they are actually constantly, to discussing, their plans with Cork, the club. But otherwise, they, independently, to look after, the management. And we could do something like that here as well. Like, could have a volunteer group who's actually, with constant feedback with council and, the club. And I think that would be a really good idea as well, because I know inside our club as well, Albury Wodonga mountain bikers, there are people who focusing only on Wodonga and some of them in Albury. And I think that's because where they live or which park they're really passionate about it. And I think that's absolutely fine. We just need to sort of, share, according to that, the resources. And yeah, we could have like 2 working as a club, we could have 2 working groups who's, look after, different parks.
Thank you, because we do use the same sort of format for all of our other sporting groups, so it's just thinking more broadly. Thank you. Councillors, if there's no further questions, I would like to again just thank Indy for coming in. Thank you again for all the work that clearly has gone into that presentation today. Not only your knowledge of the sport is absolutely, fantastic and clearly world class, but hearing some of the issues that you have put and also some of the I guess some of the probably lack of understanding maybe of the wider community about the passion for the environment and, the willingness of, I'm going to keep calling it the club, and sorry, I'm using that very broadly, but participants in the sport wanting to get involved and wanting to give back to the community. We see it in other sports, so we shouldn't be surprised to see it in this sport, but the commitment and the willingness to look after what it is that is there on behalf of all of community is fantastic. So if you could please pass our thanks back to the mountain bike community, that would be fantastic. And again, thank you for your presentation. Councillors, there is that recommendation there on page 8 of 11, and that's really about receiving this submission as part of the budgetary process. Can I have someone move up? Yes. Okay. No problem. So it would be that the presentation made by be noted. Yep. So thank you, Councillor Bennett. You're happy to move that with that change. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Did anybody wish to speak against receiving that recommendation? If not, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried unanimously. Just as a close, what the process is from here, and this is a reminder to councillors as well, is we'll give this due consideration and absolutely discuss it. We will then do that as part of that budget submission. But I think that because this is actually also strategic in nature and pretty big, that this will go on for some time as well and certainly inform some thinking going forward. So again, thank you very much. And it does just leave me to close this special meeting, and we do have a normal council meeting next Monday. So again, thank you, and I think we'll cease live streaming now.